What if I told you that the blueprints for one of the most powerful and bizarre objects in the entire universe weren't drawn up by Einstein, but by ancient sages, like 3,000 years ago? Today, we are diving into something truly mind-bending. The idea that a sacred hymn from ancient India contains a shockingly precise, step-by-step description of a black hole. You know, this ancient verse, it just sets the stage perfectly. It talks about a reality that's so far beyond our normal experience that our words, even our thoughts, just can't touch it. It's a place where modern astrophysicists and ancient mystics weirdly find themselves on the exact same page. All right, let's get into it. Here's our flight plan. We're going to start with the paradox itself, then we'll literally journey into the heart of a black hole, step by step, using these ancient names as our guide. And at the end, we'll look at how two totally different ways of knowing reality might have arrived at the same incredible truth. So, at the very heart of this whole thing is a paradox, a real head-scratcher. We have one of the most advanced concepts in modern physics, something that came from incredibly complex math and observation, and it seems to be showing up somewhere it just has no business being: an ancient spiritual text. This is the big question, right? And I want to be clear, we're not talking about some vague, poetic metaphor here. As you're about to see, the descriptions are so specific. They map almost one-to-one with the physics of a black hole. Is that just a wild coincidence, or is it something else entirely? Just look at the two worlds we're talking about here. On one side, you've got Einstein's general relativity, pure, hard science, and on the other, the Vishnu Sahasranama, a sacred hymn of 1,000 names for the divine. The gap between them seems massive. Well, our journey today is all about building a bridge right across it. Okay, so our journey begins. We're approaching this cosmic monster, and the very first name that acts as our guidepost doesn't describe a person or a god, but a fundamental core property of the universe itself. Now, most of us hear the name Krishna and we think of the deity, right? But its root, its cosmic meaning, is internal darkness. It points to a state that is completely all-absorbing. It's a truth that's literally veiled in blackness. Think about the universe before a single star had ever ignited. That's the vibe. And boom, here's our first major parallel. Both systems are describing something you can't see directly. You only know it's there because of its effects on everything around it. You see stars orbiting nothing. You see gas getting superheated as it's pulled in. But the source, the thing itself, remains completely hidden in an all-consuming darkness. So we've approached the darkness. Now we're right at the edge, the point of no return. And what's amazing is that this exact concept exists in both the ancient text and in modern physics. The next name on our map is Gahana. It literally means impenetrable. It describes a hard boundary, something you can't get through, something you can't even really wrap your head around using normal tools or logic. It's a one-way door. So what's the scientific parallel? It's the event horizon. I mean, this is just incredible. The ancient text says you can't dash into the domain with instruments. And what is the event horizon? It's not a physical wall, it's a mathematical point in space-time where gravity becomes so strong that the escape velocity is faster than the speed of light. Nothing gets out. You cross that line and you are gone for good. Okay, so we've conceptually crossed that uncrossable line. We're venturing into the great unknown. And our next set of names describes the very nature of what it's like on the inside. The text actually combines two names here, which is fascinating. You have Guhyo, which means hidden, and Gabhirah, which means unfathomable depth. So together, they're painting a picture of a secret, deep cavern, a place that's just beyond the reach of our minds. And this is where the ancient text and modern science lock in perfectly. Science tells us, point blank, we can never see inside a black hole. By definition, no information can escape. It's a place where our known laws of physics literally break down. Just like that Vedic deep cave, it can never become an object we can study from the outside. We've made it. We've reached the final destination, the absolute center, the very heart of the mystery, where creation and destruction seem to meet at a single, infinitely small point. So the name for this core is Aatmayoni. Let's break that down. Atma means self, and yoni means womb or source. So the self-womb or the self-born. It's described as the uncaused cause, the original source from which everything springs. This might be the most mind-blowing parallel of all. At the center of every black hole is the singularity, a point of, well, literally infinite density. It's where space-time as we know it just stops. But some theories suggest it's also a point that holds the potential for everything, an entire universe. Just like Aatmayoni, it's the cosmic womb, the beginning and the end, all in one. So, we've just taken a journey through a black hole using a 3,000-year-old map. And the question that should be screaming in your mind right now is, how? How was this map possibly created? And that brings us to two very different ways of knowing things. I love this quote because it just nails the scientific method. It's an outward-looking process. It's all about observing, measuring, and testing the physical world out there. Even when it tries to understand the inner workings of reality, it has to do it by looking at external evidence. You see, we have two different toolkits here. The ancient rishis, the sages, used what they called drishti, a kind of direct perception. They turned their consciousness inward to see the fundamental structure of reality itself, kind of like seeing the architectural blueprints. Modern science, on the other hand, uses instruments to observe the physical world, which is like taking an incredibly detailed photograph of the finished building. Let me put it another way. Imagine the universe is a giant cosmic drain, and a black hole is where everything spirals down the pipe. Modern science, with its amazing telescopes, is taking these beautiful, high-definition pictures of the water swirling right at the edge of that drain. But what this suggests is that the ancient rishis somehow already had the blueprints for the entire plumbing system. And get this, it's not just black holes. This text seems to be packed with these parallels. The name Vistara describes the expansion of space. Anu lines up perfectly with the atom. It really starts to look less like a coincidence and more like a comprehensive, coded system of knowledge. Which leads us to our final, really provocative question. Could this whole hymn be a kind of ancient encryption? A genius way to preserve incredibly advanced scientific knowledge in a format that was stable, memorable, and could survive for millennia? A sacred chant waiting for a time when we could finally understand the code? You know, maybe the point isn't about which way of knowing is better, the inward look or the outward look. Maybe the real magic happens when we consider them together. Maybe we're on the edge of a new kind of understanding, a place where the eye of science and the eye of consciousness can finally meet and fuse into one brilliant, incandescent vision of reality.